It is the Wednesday edition of Three Man Front. Pat Landrum, Conrad, Molly, a little bit under the weather. We're here until 2 o'clock. So much to get into. Chris Lee, who covers the Vanderbilt Commodores for Vandy 247, he will join the program. Coming up in about 15, we'll get a preview from him. Later this hour, we'll talk to Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider, his big picks over the weekend, including who he likes in the Vandy-Alabama game, Chris Stewart, the voice of the Tide, Trey Wallace from Outkick. But we start this morning with a little bit of baseball news. And so many of our listening audience, including my partner Landrum Roberts, are diehard Braves fans. And we were waiting word, and it came this morning that Brian Snitker will not return as the manager of the Atlanta Braves. What's your initial feelings on that?
Yeah, when he said that he was undecided before the end of the season, that it gave me a little bit of concern. Not that the Braves would be in bad shape, but maybe this would be the best time after this season to go in a new direction. And I like it for Snit. If, according to this, he's leaving on his own terms, I don't know what those conversations were like with the Braves front office, but I think this is a chance to go and, if you're the Braves, kind of reset and look at where you want this organization to be in the next 10 years. Already some names that we've kind of been discussing off the air and that we think would be really good fits for that organization. But Brian Snitker, a gentleman, a class act, and he has devoted much of his life to baseball and the Braves organization. So all the best, and I appreciate what he did.
Yeah, he started managing in the Braves organization in 1982. That's just amazing. He managed 1,479 games at the helm of the Atlanta Braves. He had a .548 winning percentage. He was the 2018 National League Manager of the Year, the 2021 World Series champion. He led the Braves to 6 consecutive National League East titles from 2018 through 2023. So he has had just an incredible career. And, you talk about this a lot in sports, but anytime somebody they've put themselves in a position to walk away from what they love doing and been successful at, when you can walk out on your own terms, all you can do is stand up and applaud. Yes. And that's all you can do for Brian Snitker, a first-class individual, and he did it the right way. And I know the Braves fans out there been frustrated maybe the last couple of years by some of the things, but I've said it on this program a million times. The manager can only fill out the lineup card from what your general manager is able to go out and procure for you. Now, you can criticize the X's and O's. You can criticize, obviously, Boone and the work of his bullpen last night for the Yankees to blow that one against the Red Sox.
Sorry, buddy.
You can talk about that, but, I think some of the criticism's unfair on Snitker the last couple of years because there were injuries and there were certain things that the front office did not do to help him out on a daily basis.
No, and Brian Snitker always struck me as a guy who was dialed in, who wanted what was best for his team, for the Braves organization. His record with the organization tells you that. He just wanted what was best, and he was the easy scapegoat a lot of times. But, yeah, I think that Brian Snitker, what he did, how he managed, and just being he wasn't always a great soundbite, but he was just kind of steady Eddie.
He was solid.
He was never too high on the highs, and he never got too low in the lows.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's what you want with a leader of your organization. I'm happy for Snit, and I know he's got a big expanded family, and he really enjoys time with them, so maybe he'll finally get some of that time.
All right, so the Landrum Roberts hot board, what do we got?
Number one, we're going to go It Just Means More. David Ross, who played at Florida, played at Auburn, played for the Atlanta Braves, has been a successful manager at the major league level with the Chicago Cubs. I think he would fit well with a fan base. So David Ross would be number one. I got Ron Washington still out there.
Yeah, his contract was not renewed by the Anaheim Angels. He had some health issues, and Angels decided to go in a different direction.
My John Gruden would be Bruce Bochy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say John Gruden.
Or John Gruden.
Bochy's I think technically he might be older than Snitker.
I know Mark DeRosa is the name that we talked about. You said you were not impressed with him in the World Baseball Classic.
No. As a matter of fact, I think that he had one of the best rosters in the WBC that USA's ever had, and that was a train wreck. So that's just my opinion. DeRosa was a very good player, very good utility guy for the Indians, Cardinals, Braves. Had a good Major League Baseball career.
David Ross just seems like it's too easy. But I don't
How would you feel about? And I mean, he's been the manager
Aaron
of my team
Boone?
before. Yeah, we'll give you him for pennies on the dollar.
No.
I wish they'd never fired him in the first place. They wanted a more player-friendly guy. What do you think about Joe Girardi?
I would love it.
I think Joe Girardi's a fantastic manager.
We sat down with him. I've told the story before, but
Yep,
Army Navy
Philadelphia.
in Philadelphia sat across the table from Joe Girardi. So impressed with him. Hated him as a player because he killed my Braves, but I would
He's
take Joe
fantastic.
Girardi in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was done wrong in Philly.
He got done wrong in New York before that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he's got that bad taste out of his mouth, but that would be another excellent choice. So, but yeah, that's the big news this morning.
Or Tony Vitella.
I was waiting for you to say Tony Vitello. I was waiting for it.
Yeah, apparently Tony's name is
Bobby Cox's ejection record would be in jeopardy.
San Francisco, Atlanta.
Taxes.
well, I mean, it just depends on your political leaning as well.
Yes, it does.
Do you want to be on that coast? Or
I heard he's
this
allergic
coast?
to shellfish.
Well, then Atlanta, here he comes, maybe.
I don't think he is.
All right. So speaking of Major League Baseball, yesterday the wild card got underway. Tigers over the Guardians 2-1. Cubs 3-1 over the Padres. You sense a theme developing here, except for the final game of the night. It was a very close-knit affair in 3 of the 4 wild card games. The Red Sox take out the Yankees 3-1. And the Dodgers last night put a shellacking on the Reds 10-5. So all those games I just mentioned, the exact same schedule today. Detroit, Cleveland, noon. San Diego Cubs at 2. Boston Yankees at 5. Reds, Dodgers at 8 o'clock tonight. So all the teams that won yesterday, they are 1 game away from eliminating the opposition. So your Yankees are facing elimination tonight in the Bronx. And it was also a bad attendance day. If you watched any of the games, it was not a sellout anywhere. Dodgers Stadium had 6,000 empty seats. Bronx had 2,000 empty seats. Cleveland looked like they were playing like a spring training game. Like there was nobody at that game yesterday.
I got a guy on my team, Deacon. Hope you're doing well. But he's a huge Yankees fan. And so we're bowling last night in our league bowling, and we're watching the game. He was absolutely livid that they pulled Max Fried. But volume's not up on TVs. So what was your thoughts on them pulling Max Fried?
I'm glad that he'll be good to go for opening day next year. It's asinine. You spent $200 million on this guy, and you're not going to let him. I mean, he was throwing 7 shutout innings against the Red Sox, and you're going to pull the guy because he hit 100 pitches? Guess what the Red Sox did? They went, hey, we got a pretty hot hand with this Crochet guy outside of the Volpe home run. How about we just kind of ride him through the game?
Worry about arm rest later?
And guess what? It worked. But, as bad as that was, the bullpen's been a disaster all year, so I don't know why Aaron Boone thought it'd be any different. But, I mean, the reality is also you had the bases loaded with nobody out in the bottom of the 9th, and you got nothing.
Well, the guy that's at the plate with the bases loaded, nobody out, it's either going to be a grand slam or a strikeout, and you got the strikeout.
Well, yeah, you kind of knew that with Giancarlo. It's just that's a game you should have won last night. So
I would tell you this, is my disdain for the Yankees as a Braves fan, but I was thinking about you, and I felt bad for you. Because I've been there as a fan, and so has Pat.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things, I'm trying to explain it with Paige. It's funny, we're watching the game, and she goes, why are you watching the Yankees? I thought you said they suck. And I said, well, no, they're good enough to make the playoffs. They just disappoint me every year in the postseason, which I know I'm not going to get any sympathy as a Yankees fan. But it was just funny because she's like, well, I thought they were bad because of the way you talk about them. I said, no, they're really good. They just always fall apart at the seams in the postseason. A lot of it's because this is why I want Aaron Boone to be gone, because he doesn't know how to manage a bullpen in October. He's a great regular season coach. I don't care about the regular season.
Well, I hope
you got to win in October.
I hope it's not an omen of things to come, but Shohei Ohtani and the laser that he hit to get things started at Chavez Ravine last night, and now you take a Dodgers team that won 93 games, their fewest in the last 7 seasons, but won 15 of their final 20.
Yeah.
They're catching fire, and this is one of those teams that wins a World Series.
I was about to say, they're like, I guess how you would look at the Chiefs right now in the NFL, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're not as impressive as I thought, but they're going to end up in the Super Bowl every year. Same thing with the Patriots when Tom Brady was there. Man, they're struggling early on. They don't look as good as I thought. Boom, they find a way to make it all the way there. They're one of those teams, they know they can coast, and as long as they get into the postseason, they're
football.
Well, at least they can win the big one, unlike James.
So do you think? But all serious question. I
No,
know.
they
I
won't
know.
get rid of him.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
No, they're too weak-minded. They should have gotten rid of Brian Cashman 5 years ago.
His
They won't do
brother's
that
probably
either.
available now, Brett, because he was in the Rangers organization as a hitting coach, maybe.
The only thing that gives me some hope is the last time, and this is how bad the Yankees have been against the Red Sox. The last time the Yankees beat the Red Sox in the postseason was when Aaron Boone hit a walk-off home run in 2003.
Ooh.
It's been 22 years since they've beaten the Red Sox in the postseason. So maybe he can work some magic the next two nights, but yeah.
And you think
Not good.
And I know quickly we're going to move on, but when I saw that Boston team play in Atlanta, we went for that series. That was never a team that I would have told you. I mean, you get rid of Devers. Who else did they get rid of?
Oh man, I'm trying to remember who else.
I never would
they
have
got
thought that
rid
that
of.
would have been a playoff team. But
Yep.
Playing good ball right
Got
now.
hot.
That's
Yeah,
what
they are.
matters.
So in just a moment, we're going to go to Nashville and we're going to talk to Chris Lee from Vandy 247. I just saw an interview was conducted with Diego Pavia by Chris Lowe from On 3. And he was asked if Alabama, having the game circled after losing at Vanderbilt last season, just what was his opinion on that. And this is exactly what Pavia said. He says, I don't know what they're doing. I just focus on us, but I know we've got to bring it. That's for sure. The crowd, I think, is going to be a big factor in the game, but we just got to play within the white lines. If we do that, if we play our game, it won't be close.
whoa. I liked everything that he said. If I'm Clark Lee, I like everything he said except for the very end. I know he's a confident guy.
If we play our game, it won't be close.
It's the only problem I take. I take exception to that. I don't want you saying that.
I mean, to be fair, the last quarterback to talk trash, that turned out pretty well for him. So
Castellanos, yeah.
just throwing that. But no, I mean, I'm with you. There's a.
But to say it won't be close?
I was about to say you can be. Then there's that. You take that.
Are you
one
going to
step
boat race
past
them in
it.
their stadium?
Hey, they might. I don't think that's going to happen, but they might.
All right, we'll go to Nashville next. Talk to Chris Lee from Vandy 247. Get his thoughts on this weekend's game with Alabama later this hour. Vegas Insider. This is Three-Man Front on Jocks. College game day will be in Tuscaloosa this weekend, which signifies it's a big game.
I like to think this is what Diego Pavia listens to every morning. He got his swag on. That sounds like Diego Pavia to me.
Sound like I was at a high school football game or something. I hear that song a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Who is that?
Soldier Boy, come on.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, you remember Shane Beamer did a video to that
that's
a
right.
couple years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I recognize it. I'm just bad with the titles and the artist,
That's okay.
which is kind of important.
Well,
You mean that's not on your playlist?
I didn't want to commit to Soldier Boy, but yeah, it was right there on the tip of my tongue.
so it is a big game coming up this weekend. Vanderbilt's undefeated. Alabama is going to try to overcome last season's loss. Just like last year, Bama coming off a big win against Georgia. So joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline from Vandy 247, Chris Lee joins us on the program. Chris, I hope you're doing well, and I know there's a lot of excited people in Nashville about this Vanderbilt football program right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is. These are crazy times. I've got, all in all, and look, I may have something else pop up. I've had 10 radio or podcast requests just for this week alone. A lot of times that's what I will get in a season. And it is definitely a sign of the times with Vanderbilt football that we're the, look, I think anytime it's Alabama, there's a little bit of a heightened interest. You guys could be playing Miss Doris's School of the Blind. You'd probably want to know more, but
Sure.
I've never seen it. I've never seen interest in a game involving Vanderbilt. And this is, I guess, year 22 or 23 for me doing it now, the way there is this week.
Chris, we've all seen Diego Pavia play. We were right across from him in SEC Media Days. We've heard his quotes, his sound bites, all of that stuff. But you cover him. You're dialed into that program. Just how big is Diego Pavia with the Vanderbilt fan base? Are we talking iconic status? Where does he rank all time, I guess, if you went Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've covered some great ones. I've covered some, Golden Spike winners in baseball and number one draft picks overall, and some good basketball players, and Vanderbilt, for all its history in athletics in football, and even there, like I had Jay Cutler, who I think was probably criminally underrated for a lot of things, but I could make the argument, and look, he's got to stay healthy, and that is a little bit of a concern because it was a concern last year, but I could make the argument that by the time he is done, he is the most important athlete in the history of Vanderbilt athletics, and that's not to knock any of those other guys, but football's king in the South, and like they have not been relevant in a long time to this degree. I mean, it probably would literally be 100 years or so since they have been this relevant at this point of the season, in terms of like being able to be in an actual conversation about knocking off a team like Alabama. So look, I remember, I guess it was about 14 months ago, the topic came up on Paul Feinbaum's show. And this was, right when Texas and Oklahoma were coming into the league and all these winds of change in college athletics and talk of super conferences. The talk came up on his show, like has Vanderbilt won its last conference game as a member of the SEC. And again, this was before the 24 season, and that felt at the time like it could be a valid question because I think at that point they had gone 0 for the league in 2020, 2021, won 2 in 2022, and then won none again in 23. And now we're sitting here having these conversations. I mean, look, they are better across the board than they were, but we would not be having this discussion without Diego Pavia. And it's not just the talent guys; it is when Clark Lee took over that job. Anytime Vanderbilt has a coaching change, one of two things have happened: either and somebody snags a James Franklin away from them, but more often than not, it's hit rock bottom, even by Vanderbilt standards. Job that he took on for a lot of reasons, rebuild for Vanderbilt maybe than any other. And we're sitting here a year later, and I think, without Diego Pavia, we wouldn't be having this talk. And I think if they can finish off and be competitive and maybe even get to the playoffs, which I don't think is crazy. Is it going to happen? I would bet not, but I don't think it's nuts. If they are able to get in that stratosphere and make it, I think he's got to be on that short list of most important athletes in the history of that school.
So, Chris, let's compare and contrast. I know it's completely different years, different teams, but watching the Vanderbilt team last year that beat Alabama at home and the Vanderbilt team that will be in Tuscaloosa this Saturday, I know the confidence level last year, and you're playing really good football this year, but compare and contrast last year's Vandy team to this year's team, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think if you lined them up and played them today, I think this year's team would beat last year's by about 10 points. I think the analytical models that are out there would agree with that. They are so much better on the line of scrimmage. To be honest with you, I don't want to take away anything that they did last year, but they had no business beating Alabama with the talent discrepancy. And that included, the line of scrimmage too, where they weren't honestly very good on the offensive side. But I think Diego just made stuff happen. And it was one of those days where the stars kind of aligned in their favor. And look, they were capable of doing that on any given day. But that team was not nearly as talented as this one. They went out and got 4 graduate transfers on the offensive line. They've got a center in Jordan White who is just outstanding, who's probably going to be an NFL draft pick. And then who was a JUCO sprinter and has made a lot of big plays for them. They've got a freshman named Manny, but he's fast too. They've got a backup running back named James Walk-On, who's the fastest guy in that room. Junior Sherrill's gotten better. Eli Stowers has gotten better. And Martell Hyde, who's a corner for them, plays 2 ways and is capable of making big plays on offense. They just have so many threats offensively now that they didn't have a year ago, with speed that they didn't have. I'm not saying it's Alabama and Georgia speed, but it's way better than they had a year ago. And you throw in a better offensive line and you throw in Diego Pavia because he's better for all that. And they're just a headache to defend right now.
Chris, what is it about Vandy head coach Clark Lee? Because you just mentioned there's been a talent upgrade on the roster, but, oh, by the way, everybody else has got talent. We see the parity across college football and especially in the SEC on Saturdays. But what is it about Clark Lee? Is it buy-in? Is it X's and O's with the guys? How is he having this success?
I think it's all that. He got laughed at, and like rightfully so. Like when he came to media day and talked about them being the best program in the country, and I get it. Is that something Vanderbilt's going to attain? I mean, I think in this era winter of college football, where you're seeing Indiana make the playoffs and things like that, it's not as crazy as it might have once been for anybody to say that. But still, it's still like it. Don't get me wrong, it's still a really tough job. You still got the high standards in league. But I think what was important is Clark put that out there. And to me, that's kind of a, aim for the stars, hit the moon, you're in a much better place. I think the expectations have gone up just because of that mentality. I think, two of the most important things that have happened to them, you go back a couple of years ago, they went to UNLV early in the season in September, and they lost a game they were favored to win. And the year before, they'd beaten Kentucky and Florida at home, and it felt like, okay, the rebuild is kind of on. It's maybe ahead of schedule. And then they got shellacked by Tennessee, ended up 5-6. And I think they had a false sense of security going into 2023. And boy, they took it on the chin. I think they lost every SEC game, I want to say by 17 or more. They kind of had a realization that, okay, this pro style thing we're trying to put together where we're going to beat people hat for hat is not going to work against the teams in this league. They scrapped all that. They told their quarterbacks, you might want to hit the portal because we're going to have to find. And because New Mexico State beat Auburn, Mexico State system, that's how they found Tim Beck, their OC. That's how they found Jerry Kill. And they said, we're going to have to piece this together very differently. And now you see what it is. Took over the defense. He was a great defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. He got that fixed. And I think the other thing that happened to them, a couple of weeks before they beat Alabama, They went to Georgia State and got beat by a bad team, and it taught them that, hey, we have made progress, but we cannot take anything for granted. I think it was a situation where they took adversity and kind of turned it in their favor. And it has just been like, guys, if you had told me this 15 months ago that all these things were going to happen, I would have been the first person to say that you're off your rocker. It has been amazing to watch what they have done.
Finally, not asking for a prediction of the game unless you want to give us one, but just how do you see this game playing out Saturday at Bryant-Denny? I know Vegas odds makers say Bama is around a 10.5 point favorite, but in regards to just how this game will play out in your mind, Chris, how do you see it working out?
Well, I think this is one of those times they can actually go down there and give Alabama a game till late in the ball game and maybe even win it without Alabama just showing up with its C or D game. I think they're that good where I think they're capable of beating just about anybody on the right day, especially with Diego Pavia. Now, having said that, I don't think they played a team that's as good as Alabama. I had Alabama to win the national title before the season because I thought they were good in the trenches. I thought year 2 of Ryan Grubb would pay dividends. I liked what I heard about Ty Simpson, and I thought, hey, this feels like sometimes year 2 under a staff is when it clicks. I think Alabama's got that kind of talent. So I think if they go and they both play their A games, I think Alabama is probably going to win. I feel like Alabama's downfield passing game is going to give them some issues. The one concern I do have is Utah State and Georgia State did hit them on some big plays downfield. Now, look, some of that was against second, third, maybe even 14 defenses.
Sure.
But they also did some of those against some of their top guys. I think a wild card in this one too is what they do with Martell Height because he's their best corner. He's only played about a third of their defensive snaps because they've used him on offense and special teams, and they haven't really needed him yet because nobody's come within 20 points of him yet. But I do wonder if with Williams and those guys, maybe you see him more there, and maybe that evens things a little bit more with Vandy. But I feel like watching Ty Simpson play, watching the way, like they haven't turned it over this year.
Right.
And I think if Alabama, it feels like they've been more disciplined with penalties. I feel like this is an Alabama team that's starting to figure out some identity and play with some discipline. The combo with Simpson and those downfield guys, to me, feels like the difference. But you also saw the State did to them with a mobile quarterback. And man, Pavia is just, I don't know that anybody in the country has had a better year than him so far. But it feels like if talent wins out, I think it's Alabama's game. I think it's maybe I think it's going to be fun to watch however it winds up.
I think we all agree with that. That's Chris Lee. You can follow his work at Vandy247. Chris, I know Auburn will be making the trip up to Nashville a little bit later this season, so I'm sure we'll be checking in with you again, but we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
Thanks. That's Chris Lee joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Well, you want to watch the MLB playoffs like Conrad and others this afternoon? Well, you can do it at the Finnick right there near Railroad Park. The Finnick's your front row seat to the best entertainment. They got massive screens, explosive sounds, every seat in the house. They got a new restaurant menu, too, whether it's the shareables to get things started, the wings, or the wood-fire grilled burgers. They got fork and knife stuff, too, like fresh Gulf seafood. They've got a shrimp and grits that will absolutely make your lips smack your face. It's the Finnick. Check them out. They also have acoustic music Wednesday through 5:30 to 8 o'clock, bands after 10 o'clock, live bands on Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the NFL, college football, all the video screens, all the video boards, the state-of-the-art sound. You're going to have that all dedicated to football all weekend long. It's the Finnick. Check them out, 1630.
Coming up in 15 minutes, so we will talk to Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider. This is Three Man Front, the Wednesday edition. Jocks. It is 10:35. Welcome back into Three-Man Fun. As Landrum's jamming out to some level 42.
Man, you'd have this on at the dentist office. It's good stuff back in the day.
All right, so
Still good stuff.
So what you think about Chris Lee? His thoughts on the Vanderbilt Commodores coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium. He actually gave us a score. He thinks it's like a 38-31 Alabama game. Conrad, what do you think? That kind of falls in line what you're leaning towards by the end of the week?
Yeah, because I think there's going to be a lot of points. Generally speaking, right? We know Vanderbilt, they have one of the best offenses in the country. Not only can they do what they did last year very well, but they can also throw the ball down the field better than they could last year, which will certainly present some problems. So, yeah, I think they'll get theirs, and I think Alabama similarly will be able to get theirs because the weakness for Vanderbilt, as you kind of heard Chris Lee mention, is that secondary. I guess in past years, I would have looked at this as there's no way that Alabama's going to lose a game like this. It's a revenge game. They've had it circled. They're not getting caught off guard. But I think it's a testament to Diego Pavia and just how good he is that despite all of that, I think Vanderbilt has a very realistic chance on Saturday. Do I think Alabama's going to win? Yes. I think it being in Bryant-Denny will help them a lot. But I think it's going to be one you have to sweat out a little bit if you're an Alabama fan because they're going to score.
Looking at Vanderbilt statistically and where they are, and I do give them credit because they did beat Virginia Tech, and they did control the game. Lenora Sellers, without Lenora Sellers, they still would have won that game against South Carolina. But they're just solid. They're solid all the way around.
Yeah, and
there's no stat that you're going to go, wow, that's incredible. Never seen a team do that. They're just solid.
I was about to say they're very fundamentally sound. They play smart football, right? They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot, or at least we haven't really seen them do that yet. So
and they have an X factor in a quarterback who absolutely believes that he can will a team to a win, and
he's done it.
He's done it.
I'm not taking anything away from what they've done offensively.
It feels like you're about to.
But there is a but coming up. And I agree with everything you said about Diego Pavia. He is the difference maker. If this was Joe Q. Public at quarterback instead of Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium, I don't even think that this is going to be a close game. But because Pavia is the X factor, okay, the success that they have had against the opponents that they have had, they played Charleston Southern, who's an FCS school, okay? There's 126 schools in the FCS. Charleston Southern is 88th in total defense in the FCS.
It's not good.
They had 490 yards against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is currently 68th in the FBS in total defense.
And fired their coach already.
Correct. They only mustered 323 yards against South Carolina on the road. But listen, I watched that game. They took it to South Carolina. They won the trenches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No doubt.
They were going to win that game.
Yeah. They won 31-7. So, I mean, that was a really good barometer of how good of a football team they are. South Carolina has the 46th best defense. The last 2 weeks, they've played Georgia State. Georgia State has the next to last worst defense in all of college football. And they got them for 635 yards. And then last week they played Utah State, and Utah State made that a game.
Oh, yeah, it was competitive, and then Vanderbilt pulled away at the end.
Yeah.
They did. They had 543 yards of offense against Utah State, and Utah State has the 115th.
What was Utah
best
State's yardage against Vanderbilt last week, if you got that handy?
I can get that if you'll just give me a second. I will be able to pull that for you.
And I think it goes without saying, but you look at the game last year as well, and what was the thing that Alabama did, right? You got behind the 8-ball early, you let them drive down the field and score. You had that turnover on the batted pass that ended up being a pick six, and that's I think that is, if Alabama doesn't turn the ball over, which they haven't done all year long, if they don't do that on Saturday, I think it's going to be really hard for Vanderbilt to win. But again, we saw last year, turn the ball over multiple times, things get away from you. And that's how you lose those kind of
Utah
games.
State had 393 yards of total offense against Vanderbilt.
How much of that was passing?
274.
Okay.
So they had 119 yards rushing, 274 in the air. They ran 63 plays.
My question is, if your question mark on defense is your secondary, Alabama, what they do well is throw the football. It's your weakness versus their strength. How does Clark Lee, what does he design to do And you know what? He maybe he takes a page out of Tony White, the FSU defensive coordinator's book. I don't know if they're built to do it and they got the personnel to do it, but create a lot of confusion and sell out.
Yeah, I mean, that would be I think that's what you would want to do. I think the question at this point, and not to, I mean, look, I get it. I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow or anything, but just when you have a guy like Ty Simpson playing at the level that he's playing, it just kind of feels inevitable that he's going to be able to do whatever he wants. And now maybe that won't be the case ultimately on Saturday, but it really does feel like the Alabama defense, right? Are you going to be able to, because I expect Vanderbilt to be able to score early. It's, can you make adjustments throughout the game to where you're really just kind of leaning on their neck in the second half of that game? Because I think that's what people expect Alabama to do. But we got to see if they can do that. And if you're Vanderbilt, right, you're probably going to try to run to the outside a lot like Georgia did, because Georgia had half of their yards picked up on 7 plays in that game on Saturday. So Alabama has to show they can do things better than they did against Georgia and Florida State, because, I mean, Vanderbilt has the recipe right now.
What's crazy is we're talking about this Vanderbilt team, and they're legitimate, and I think all Alabama fans and college football fans, we take Vanderbilt seriously now. But just think about how impressive that's going to be on Alabama's resume if they're able to beat Vanderbilt by 2 scores or more.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we might look back at the end of the year and go,
beat
that was one of
Vanderbilt.
the 3 or 4 best wins that Alabama had all year was against Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And Brian Denny.
Are you seeing cracks in your foundation? Are the doors and windows sticking? You need to call Alabama Professional Services because you've got some settling issues and maybe some cracks in your foundation. 205-951-9717. They'll inspect that foundation. They'll explain the problem and give you an honest, pressure-free solution. They can fix your foundation, even tackle that sinking driveway or a patio. They're poly-level system. It's clean, it's fast. They can take care of you. Call 717 or go to their website, alabamaprofessional.com. APS has been protecting Alabama homes since 1977. Let them start protecting your home today. 519-9717.
Our Vegas insider, our buddy Brian Edwards, his favorites for the college football and Las Vegas has just updated the next college football coach to be fired next on 3-man front.
It is 1047. Welcome back in every Wednesday on this program. From Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com, good friend of the program, Brian Edwards joins the show, gives us his thoughts on some big college football games and the NFL. Brian, I hope you're doing talking about Diego Stadium. So let college game days has lasted long. This is where we are now. And Vegas has this as a 10.5-point spread currently. What's your feeling on this game? You got one way or another that you might be leaning?
Yeah, Chris Lee, also of Southeastern 16.
That's right.
Yes. I like Vandy plus the 10.5. So since Diego Pavia got there 6-0 against the spread with 4 outright wins in 6 games as a road underdog, and regardless of home, away, or neutral, as an underdog with Pavia, the Commodores are 10-2 against the spread with 7 outright wins. They have won 6 in a row dating back to the bowl win over Georgia Tech. They're 5 wins this year by margins of 42, 24, 24, 49, and 20. And although Bama is in revenge mode, and that, is favorable, as a motivating force, if you will, for the Tide, I still think Vandy's in the more favorable spot coming off of a couple of easy games, scoring 125 points in wins over Utah State and Georgia State. And so they've had a couple of cupcakes, whereas Alabama is coming off a 60-minute battle against, outside of Auburn, their biggest rival these days, in a game, they were gunning for with 2 weeks to prepare. And Pavia has been lights out this year, 74.6 completion percentage, 13-3 TDI&T ratio. And he also has 294 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.1 yards per carry average. I like the Commodores catching double digits.
All right, another game in the SEC, Brian. We got Mississippi State. They were so close last week versus Tennessee. They travel to take on Texas A&M in College Station, plus 14.5 for the Bulldogs. I'm like you. I think that they can certainly score points. The question is going to be, do you have Marcel Reed and the Texas A&M offense able to go up and down the field at will? Who do you like in this one?
It might be Marcel Reed going up and down the field, but I still like Mississippi State because I'm confident in their offense. I made this line 10.5, so I'll gladly take the 14.5. Mississippi State, like Vandy, 5-0 against the spread this year, 11-2 ATS dating back to the last 13 games, dating back to last year. And as a road underdog under Jeff Levy, 4-1 against the spread. On the flip side, A&M 0-3 against the spread at home this year, 2-7 ATS in 9 games as a home favorite on Mike Elko's watch. And, if anything, despite the defeat, I came away thinking even more highly of Mississippi State last week in the overtime loss to the Vols. They had a 3-point lead at midfield early in the fourth when they unfortunately had the sack, scoop and score the other way for the Vols. Yet still, they were back in the lead, 34-27, when Aguilar scored with 1:55 remaining to force overtime. And last year when these teams met, Mississippi State led 21-17 at halftime. They eventually lost 34-24, but easily covered as a 19.5-point underdog. They had a 22-17 advantage in first down, 367, 353 advantage in total offense, had more time of possession. So Mississippi State hung with these guys last year, and they're 5-4 straight up, 6-3 ATS in the last 9 head-to-head meetings. Give me Mississippi State plus 14.5.
All right, before we move on to another national game outside the Southeastern Conference, I want to ask you about your Florida Gators, as a very interesting game, as the Texas Longhorns are coming into town. And I believe it's around a touchdown or maybe 6.5 for the Texas Longhorns against your Gators. Are you sticking with Napier in this one? Do you think the Gators can keep it close?
Definitely not sticking with Napier, quote unquote, but I will go with the Gators, and there's plenty of 7s out there. And under Napier, as a home underdog, Florida 6-4 against the spread with 5 outright wins. A couple of key factors for me in this game. One, Dallas Wilson will make his season debut. This guy, I think I've talked about this guy on the show with you guys back in the summer. This guy is going to make an instant impact. He unfortunately had a injury in I think it was like a week and a half into camp around August 8th or 9th, somewhere in there. That's had him out all year so far, but he practiced all of last week and this week, and I think he could be the spark the UF offense needs. And the defense is playing great. And look, Texas hasn't exactly been lighting it up this year at all. And Art struggled. The offense struggled in a hostile environment at Ohio State. And, the swamp environment is a real thing. I think if Florida can just have a little something good happen early offensively, I think the crowd will be in it. And I think it'll be a 60-minute battle. Give me the home dog.
Hey, let's pump the brakes on Billy Napier's exit from Gainesville, because I don't know if you've seen it, Brian. BetOnline.ag has updated their next coach to be fired in college football, and you know who's at the top of the list ahead of Billy?
Oh, gosh.
As a Southeastern Conference coach.
Oh, God, why am I blanking on this? Not Brian Kelly.
Hugh Freeze.
Hugh Freeze. There we go. Yeah. Oh,
Hugh Freeze is at plus 200. Billy Napier at plus 250. Then followed by Luke Fickell, Scott Satterfield, Mark Stoops, and Brent Brennan.
Man, they better chill out with Satterfield. Cincinnati had a monster win last week.
They sure did.
Okay.
I don't think
I just thought I'd pass that along to make you feel better. We do have NFL games that we want to get to. You got a game in London, Vikings and.
Yep. Love going against QBs, making their first career start. That's Dylan Gabriel. I know the Vikings are super duper banged up, but they're still a lot better than the Browns. Give me the Vikings. If you can get it at 3, 4. So.
Let's Eagles. Tampa may have Eagles are 3.5 favorite.
Listeners last week, 10.5. Good. Well, I'm not practicing. I like the Eagles. It's just a half-point shift. Touchdown bet last week.
Up this week, I hear you.
Was rushing yard. Take it over. And -6.
So Brian says load up on Billy Napier lifetime contract.
Go Gators!
Oh, one more. Chiefs against the Jags on Monday night.
Oh, love it. All right.